Hey, this is Russ. Time for another question on the Boomer video. Yeah, we had a question come from Vicky, and Vicky asks, what is better, buying a new car or a used car? Ooh, that's a tough topic. I've bought used cars in the past. I bought 2 Lexuses that were used. And of course, I've had new cars as well. So let's address the question of new versus used. But I think you also have to throw in the question of, should you lease the car or should you pay for it by financing it or pay for it straight out with cash? All right. Now, if you have cash to pay, that's nice, but you never really want to let the dealer know that you're paying cash. At least not until the tail end of things. Otherwise, your negotiations could be kind of messed up. So, okay, so let's talk about new versus used. All right, there's an advantage with new, obviously. Who doesn't like a brand new car? I mean, it's right off the production line. You get it, it's yours. Nobody else has touched it. It has that new car smell. That's a good thing, right? Hopefully things work 100%, right? Sometimes not, okay? Sometimes things don't work perfectly, and then you have to bring it back to the dealer. And sadly, once you roll that thing out of the parking lot, it's yours. So you have to deal with any issues that happen to have come up. So I would suggest check out the car 100%, all the functions, the features, and everything. Make sure everything works before you move that car off their lot. Okay. Same thing with used cars too. Make sure everything works before you walk out the door and roll that car out of the parking lot. Right. So what is the advantages of new? Well, yeah, you're the first owner. You have everything. It's brand new. It's fresh. It smells nice and clean in there. It has that new car smell. You have that pride of ownership that it's, it's brand new. I mean, latest production model, everything. That's worth something. But I will tell you that the minute you roll that car out the door, your car depreciates like crazy. And I think they said something to the effect that, after a couple of years, 2-3 years, probably 3 years or so, you take the biggest hit in terms of the value of that car. If you were to try to sell that car again, you lose a lot of money, okay? Which brings us to why people buy used cars. They let somebody else take the initial hit, all right? So instead of paying the big dollars of the brand new car, the car is already depreciated to a certain amount. You buy it at that point, you're paying a lot less than what a new car would be, hopefully a lot less. And the only problem, though, with this is that sometimes not everything works. Sometimes people get rid of cars for various reasons. Either the mileage is getting high up there and they don't really want that car. They don't want to see the problems that happen later on. They might have a problem with the car, not be something that's chronically an issue. So the best thing is get rid of the car and let somebody else deal with it. So if you're going to buy a used car, you can buy it from either the dealership, that sells used cars, or you can buy it from a private party. You got to be buyer beware on both ends, but private party could be even worse sometimes because you don't have anybody to go back to get them to fix it. Once they have your money, they could just refuse to do anything. Same thing with the dealer, really, but many dealers will back up to a certain extent. Okay. Now, if the car has less than a certain amount of mileage, and I'm not really sure the exact amount, maybe 35,000 miles, something like that, 36,000 miles. Once it's within a certain range, some of these used cars become certifiable by the manufacturer, where they will essentially warranty that car up to a certain point. But once it gets past a certain mileage, then there's no factory warranty. You're kind of on your own. And sometimes the dealer will give you certain warranty packages to back up their sale. So double check to find out if you're getting anything. And once it gets past a certain mileage, it really drops off quite a bit. Some people will make a decision, how high are they willing to go up in terms of mileage before they say it's not worth buying this used car. Some people feel that 60,000 miles and higher is not worth it. Some people feel it's okay. Once you break 100,000 miles, you have to start wondering, is it worth buying this car? I do know, too, that CarMax had mentioned once that if your car breaks 100,000 miles and you want to trade in that car, it takes a major hit in dollar amount. They don't make as much profit on it, and so they don't give you a whole lot. Which comes up to another point. When it's time to get rid of a car, how do you get rid of a car? Do you sell it on your own? Do you trade it in? There's pros and cons with that too. That's probably good for another video. But my feeling is this: if you're gonna get a new car, you have two options. You can buy it outright. Either finance the car, pay cash and pay for the entire car, or you can lease the car. Now, leasing has certain advantages, but you don't own the car, essentially. The finance company, which is usually the dealer, will find you, their company to use. They essentially own the car, and then after your lease period is over, whether it's a 3-year lease or whatever amount of lease time you have, they take the car back. Right? You have nothing at that point. Now, the one advantage I see with leasing, because I've leased cars before too, is that you always get a new car once the lease is done. Okay, once the lease is finished, go back and make a negotiation for another leased car if you want. So every 3 years, if your lease term is 3 years, you get another car. I've done this now for the last 3 vehicles that I have. They're all leased, and so I always get a new car after 3 years. Okay, now if you lease a very expensive car, that can be kind of costly. Your monthly payments can be kind of high, and some of these cars require you to have a certain amount of money in a down payment. You could also find cars that don't require a hefty down payment, and your lease monthly might be a little higher, but there are those options as well. So here's the advantage I see with leasing. If you lease a new vehicle, okay, if you lease a new vehicle, chances of you having mechanical problems within the first 3 years is rather slim. First off, the warranty is going to cover most of this stuff anyways if this is a problem within that warranty period. And by the time your car starts having problems because you've driven it quite a bit, you've already gotten rid of the car and you're probably on your next leased car. So there's definitely that advantage. There's that pride of having a new car with you all the time, at least one every 3 years if you've got a 3-year lease. That says something in itself. I mean, I like having new cars. I don't like a car that's all beat up or anything like that. I get a fresh smelling car, a fresh looking car, but you pay a little bit more for that. And for some people, that's worth the money. Now, you could lease an inexpensive car, okay, one that's not a very expensive car right off the cost factor. To me, I think that's really your best bet, quite frankly, because you get, if you're writing it off on taxes, if you use it for business or whatever, you're not paying a high monthly rate for the vehicle. So the lowest price you can get might be worthwhile. On the other hand, if you're leasing the car because you want to drive around a very fancy, expensive car, you have to factor certain things in there too. So to answer Vicky's question, what's better, to buy a new car or buy a used car? There's no real good answer. You have to kind of really look at it on your own terms and see what you think is worth it. Now, I had leased 2 Lexuses. I had purchased used Lexuses, 2 used Lexuses. I'm still thinking about this leasing thing. I had purchased 2 used Lexuses, and it was a lot less money than had I bought them, really. And I used them for quite a few years, got rid of them, and then bought another used Lexus, right? My brother-in-law, after finding out that I was doing this, he bought himself a used Lexus as well. So we get to drive better cars, cost us less money, use them for as much as we want, and then we get rid of them. So there are some advantages. Yeah, definitely. You have to see what's worth it for you or what's not worth it for you. But quite frankly, I don't have a problem with used cars if they're in good condition, if the mechanical part of it is good, if the mileage is not too high. I think in those cases, for a used car, I'd get a nice luxury car. If you're not into luxury cars, you have no one to impress, get an inexpensive car. My current car right now is a relatively inexpensive car, and it's leased. So you can imagine how little I end up having to really pay per month for this car. And I get a new one every 3 years. Pretty nice, huh? But again, I'm getting up in years, and my wife had told me that next time we purchase a car, maybe the last time we buy a car, we might even drop down to one car between two people. If you're retired and you both stay at home and you're not having to go someplace, you might be able to get around with just one car. So maybe you want to buy that final car as your best car that you've ever purchased, because it might be your final car. Personally, I think I would need to have two cars. I don't want to be stuck, if she's taking the car going somewhere and I can't go somewhere because I'm stuck now. I like the flexibility of having two cars, but you've got insurance and other things to consider too, and that just keeps adding up in costs. Anyways, I hope this gives you some food for thought, and if this is something that's been helpful for you, go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, hit every button. Right? Tell your friends, get some subscribers on this channel. We're just slowly growing, so this is video number 3. Talk to you guys next time.